M5 versus M4 MacBook. Is the upgrade actually worth it? So imagine this for a second. You finally saved up, you did your research, and you picked up an M4 MacBook. It feels fast, everything runs smoothly, and honestly, you're enjoying it. Then, out of nowhere, Apple drops the M5. Now you're sitting there thinking, wait, did I just buy something that's already old? And it gets worse because the internet doesn't help. You open YouTube and suddenly everyone is talking about how the M5 is faster, smarter, and more powerful. So naturally, you start questioning your decision. Did you move too early? Should you have waited? Or maybe, does it even matter? Now here's the honest truth, and you'll want to stick around for this. The M5 is better, yes, but at the same time, it's not as simple as new equals necessary. In fact, for a lot of people, upgrading might not make any real difference in their daily use, and that's exactly what we're going to figure out together. So instead of rushing to conclusions, let's break this down properly, not with confusing numbers or tech jargon, but in a way that actually makes sense in real life. Now, before we go any further, let's quickly talk about who this video is really for, because that matters more than you think. First, if you already own an M4 MacBook and you're wondering if you should sell it and jump to the M5, then you're in the right place. Also, if you're someone who hasn't bought yet and you're stuck choosing between the M4 and the M5, this is going to help you avoid wasting money on the wrong option. But here's where it gets really important. Not everyone uses their laptop the same way. Some people push their machines hard every day, things like video editing, heavy apps, or long hours of demanding work, while others just want something reliable for browsing, school, or light tasks. And because of that, the answer to "should you upgrade" is not the same for everyone. What feels like a huge upgrade for one person might feel almost identical to someone else. What's new in the M5 chip? Let's talk about what's actually new with the M5 because this is where things start to get interesting. First, let's look at the CPU, which is basically the brain of the laptop. Apple has made some improvements here, both in how the cores are designed and how they work together. So yes, the M5 can handle tasks a bit faster, apps open quicker, and things feel a little more responsive. However, it's not a night and day difference when you compare it to the M4. It's more like everything just feels a bit smoother and more refined. Now moving on to the GPU, this is where creative users will pay more attention. If you do things like video editing, graphic design, or even light gaming, the M5 does give you a noticeable boost. Graphics load faster, timelines feel smoother, and overall performance under pressure is better. That said, the M4 was already doing a solid job here, so again, this feels more like an upgrade for people who really push their machines. Next, let's talk about the neural engine, and don't worry, this sounds more complicated than it actually is. This part of the chip handles smart tasks, things like photo enhancements, voice features, and anything related to AI. With the M5, this has been improved, so those tasks run faster and more efficiently. Right now, you might only notice this in small ways, but over time, as more apps rely on these features, this upgrade will start to matter more. Then there's memory, which plays a big role in how smoothly everything runs. The M5 supports faster memory and better bandwidth, which simply means it can move data around more quickly. So if you're someone who keeps a lot of apps open or works with large files, this helps things stay fluid instead of slowing down. Still, for basic use, the difference might not stand out as much. And now here's something that works quietly in the background but makes a real impact. The M5 is built using a more advanced manufacturing process. In simple terms, everything inside the chip is packed more efficiently. Because of that, it uses less power while still delivering better performance, so you're getting more done without draining as much energy. And because of that improved efficiency, we also see better thermal performance. The M5 runs cooler, especially during long or heavy tasks. So instead of the system heating up and slowing down, it stays more stable. This also means the fans, if your model has them, don't have to work as hard, which keeps things quieter. So when you put all of this together, the M5 is clearly more refined. It's faster, more efficient, and better prepared for future tasks. But at the same time, a lot of these improvements feel gradual rather than dramatic, especially if you're coming from the M4. Benchmarks and real-world performance. This is the part most people care about because numbers are nice, but real life is what actually matters. So let's start simple, everyday tasks. Things like browsing the web, checking emails, working on documents, or watching videos. Honestly, this is where the difference almost disappears. Both the M4 and the M5 handle these without even trying, Apps open instantly, tabs don't slow you down, and everything feels smooth. So if this is all you do, you're not going to feel like the M5 changed your life. It's fast, yes, but the M4 was already there. Now moving on to creative work, this is where things start to separate a bit. If you edit videos, work with photos, or use tools like Final Cut or DaVinci Resolve, the M5 does pull ahead. Timelines feel smoother, effects load faster, and exports finish quicker. However, it's not like the M4 struggles. It still handles these tasks really well. The difference shows more when your projects get heavier or more complex. So the gap is there, but it depends on how hard you push it. Then we get into development work, and this is a big one for a lot of people. If you're coding, building apps, or running containers, both chips perform well. But with the M5, builds finish a bit faster and things feel more consistent when you're doing multiple tasks at once. For example, if you're compiling code while running other tools, the M5 holds steady a bit better. Still, if you're coming from an M4, it won't feel like a completely new experience. It's more like a smoother version of what you already have. Now let's talk about AI and machine learning, because this is where the M5 quietly starts to stand out. Tasks like image generation or running local AI models feel quicker and more responsive. Also, these tasks don't slow the system down as much as before. While the M4 can still handle them, the M5 just feels more ready for this kind of workload. And as more apps start using these features, this gap will likely become more noticeable. Next up is gaming, and let's be real, not everyone buys a MacBook for gaming. But still, it matters. The M5 does offer slightly better frame rates, and games feel a bit more stable, especially over longer sessions. That said, the difference is not massive. If a game runs well on the M4, it will run slightly better on the M5. If it struggles on the M5 won't magically fix everything, so it's an improvement, just not a dramatic one. Finally, let's talk about battery life, because this affects everyone. In real-world use, the M5 lasts a bit longer. You might get an extra hour or so, depending on what you're doing. It also drains more slowly during heavier tasks. However, the M4 already has strong battery life, so this feels more like a bonus than a major upgrade. So when you step back and look at everything, the M5 does perform better across the board. But in many everyday situations, the difference is subtle, not something that instantly changes how your laptop feels. Design and feature changes. Honestly, this part can be a bit surprising because it's not always about speed, it's about what you actually see and touch every day. Starting with the chassis, Apple hasn't shaken things up dramatically. The M5 MacBooks keep the same clean, sleek design that the M4 brought. That means aluminum body, slim profile, and lightweight feel. So if you love the look of your M4, you won't feel like you're missing anything by sticking with it. At the same time, the M5 doesn't reinvent the wheel here. It's more of a refinement than a total redesign. Next up are ports. Again, not much has changed. Both the M4 and M5 models feature the same selection of USB-C or Thunderbolt ports depending on the model you get. If you were hoping for more variety or a sudden return of older ports, you'll be disappointed. But for most people, the ports you already use continue to work perfectly fine. Now let's talk about the display, because this is where the M5 does add a little sparkle. Some models now come with slight improvements in brightness and color accuracy. That means photos and videos look a bit more vivid, and text can feel a little sharper. It's subtle, but it's noticeable if you spend a lot of time staring at the screen. So creatives and media consumers might appreciate this small upgrade. Moving on to new features exclusive to the M5. One of the highlights is the upgraded webcam on select models. Apple is finally improving it to give a clearer, sharper image during calls. So if you're someone who Zooms, Teams, or FaceTimes a lot, this is a small but welcome change. In addition, connectivity has been slightly improved. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are a bit faster and more reliable, which can help if you're moving around the house or office. Another area to consider is display tech. On some M5 models, Apple has added minor enhancements for HDR or brightness consistency, which makes streaming movies or editing photos feel a bit nicer. These are the kinds of changes you don't immediately notice day to day, but they do add up over time. It's also worth mentioning that the M5 didn't remove anything essential from the M4. None of the features that were useful before are gone. That means everything you liked about the M4, the trackpad, keyboard feel, overall build quality, remains exactly the same. Apple kept the familiar experience intact, which is great for people who already love their M4. So when you look at design and features overall, the story is clear. The M5 keeps the same trusted look and feel, adds subtle but useful upgrades like a better webcam, slightly improved display, and stronger connectivity. At the same time, nothing critical has been cut. It's a gentle evolution rather than a complete overhaul, which is exactly what most users will notice in daily life. In short, if design and everyday features matter to you, the M5 feels a bit more polished, but the M4 still holds its ground. The improvements are nice, but they aren't revolutionary, which makes it important to decide whether these small changes are worth upgrading for your use. The price reality check. The M5 MacBook is newer, faster, and a little shinier on paper, but all of that comes with a price. If you check Apple's starting price for the M5, it's definitely higher than what you would pay for a new M4 today. And if you start looking at refurbished or used M4s, the gap grows even bigger, since older models often sell for less online or through resellers. But here's the tricky part. If you already own an M4, upgrading isn't just about buying the new model. You have to think about selling your current MacBook. Even if it's in perfect condition, it has already lost value, and Apple devices depreciate faster than many people realize. That means you might get a few $100s less than you hope for, which makes the cost of switching higher than it first appears. Next, consider performance per dollar. On paper, the M5 is faster and more capable, but the M4 still handles most tasks with ease. That means for everyday use, light creative work, or casual browsing, the older M4 gives you almost the same experience for less money. In other words, the performance gain might not justify the extra cost, at least for certain users. If your M4 is still running smoothly, you're getting excellent value for the money you already spent. On the other hand, Apple does offer some pricing options that can help. Refurbished M5 models sometimes appear at slightly lower prices, and if you're eligible for education discounts, you can knock a little off the sticker price. That can make upgrading a bit more appealing, especially for students or teachers who want the latest chip without paying full price. Still, even with discounts, the reality is clear. Upgrading comes with a financial hit. You're not just paying for the M5, you're paying for the privilege of being on the newest tech, even if the improvement isn't massive in day-to-day use. So in short, the M4 remains a very strong choice from a value perspective. Unless you need the extra performance, better sustained tasks, or specific M5-only features, sticking with your M4 could be the smarter move financially. It's a classic case of newer isn't always better for the wallet, and understanding that is key before making a decision. Who should upgrade and who shouldn't? It's very important for us to break this down because this is the part that actually matters: who should upgrade and who shouldn't. It's easy to get caught up in the hype of a new chip, but the truth is, not everyone needs it. Let's go step by step and make it really simple. First, let's talk about M4 owners who are light users. If your MacBook mainly handles browsing, emails, streaming, or basic document work, upgrading is honestly not worth it. The M4 is already more than capable for these tasks. Opening apps is quick, multitasking feels smooth, and battery life is already excellent. Spending money to move from an M4 to an M5 in this scenario is unlikely to make a noticeable difference in your day-to-day experience. In short, for light users, the verdict is clear: don't upgrade. Stick with your M4. Next, we have M4 owners who push their machines harder. These are the people doing heavy creative work, like video editing, 3D rendering, photo manipulation, or AI tasks. For this group, the M5 might be worth considering. The new chip handles sustained workloads better, runs cooler, and offers improvements in GPU and neural engine performance. However, it's also wise to wait for detailed benchmarks if you can. This will show you exactly how much faster the M5 really is in the apps you use most. So, for heavy users, the verdict is maybe. Consider upgrading if your current machine struggles, or if you need better performance for long projects, but don't rush blindly. Then there's anyone still using an M3 or older MacBook. This is where the M5 really shines. Compared to older models, the performance jump is much more noticeable. You'll get faster app launches, smoother creative work, better AI and ML task handling, and improved efficiency, which means longer battery life. If you're in this group, the case for upgrading is strong. The M5 is a clear step up, and it can extend the life of your MacBook for several years. More so. Let's consider new buyers who are trying to choose between the M4 and the M5. This decision largely comes down to budget and intended use. If you can afford the M5 and plan to do anything beyond light work, it's the smarter choice. You're getting the latest chip, better efficiency, and a machine that will feel more future-proof over the next few years. On the other hand, if your budget is tight and you only need a laptop for basic tasks, the M4 is still a very strong option. It's capable, reliable, and will handle most things without breaking a sweat. To sum it all up, upgrading isn't about just chasing the newest chip, it's about matching your needs with the right machine. Light M4 users should stick with what they have. Heavy users should evaluate whether the M5's improvements matter for their workflow. Older MacBook owners get a big upgrade by moving to the M5, and new buyers should choose based on budget and intended use. At the end of the day, knowing which group you fall into makes the decision clear. The M5 is impressive, but it's not always necessary. Understanding your own needs will save you money and frustration, and it ensures that when you do upgrade, it's actually worth it. Now it's time to wrap everything up and give a clear verdict. After looking at performance, design, features, and price, here's the bottom line. The M5 MacBook is better, no question. It's faster, more efficient, and handles heavy workloads more smoothly. It runs cooler, the battery lasts a little longer, and it has subtle but useful improvements like a sharper webcam and improved display. These upgrades make it a more polished, future-ready machine. However, and this is important, whether you should upgrade depends entirely on how you use your laptop. If you're a light user with an M4, the difference is small. You won't feel a huge change day to day, so upgrading might not make sense. On the other hand, if you do heavy creative work, AI tasks, or need a machine that can handle intense workloads without slowing down, the M5 is worth considering. For anyone still on an older MacBook like the M3 or earlier, the M5 is a strong upgrade and will feel noticeably faster. For a default recommendation, if you can afford it and want the most future-proof option, the M5 is the safe bet. It gives you headroom for the next few years and ensures you won't feel limited as apps and software demand more power. But if your M4 is running perfectly and your tasks are light, staying put is perfectly fine. You're not missing out in a meaningful way. Also, this is just the overview. We're planning a full review and deep dives into each specific M5 model. So if you want detailed performance comparisons, extended battery tests, or creative workflow tests, stay tuned. Those videos will help you decide which exact model is right for you. Before we go, I want to hear from you. Are you planning to upgrade to the M5 or are you holding on to your current MacBook? Drop your answer in the comments. Let's get a conversation going. Sharing your experience can help others figure out what's worth it and what's not. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. Hit the bell so you don't miss the upcoming deep dives and full reviews. Also, check out the related video card popping up here for more MacBook comparisons and tips. At the end of the day, the M5 is a solid step forward. It's polished, capable, and built for the future. Whether you upgrade or hold depends on your needs, but either way, knowing exactly what it offers makes your decision much easier.